Okay, it's 5:30. I'm going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order.
I knew it was going to be crazy.
The first order of business is Resolution 17-23, authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to prepare and submit applications to the Ohio Governor's Office of Criminal Justice Services for fiscal year 2017 Edward Byrne Justice Assistant Grant Funding.
This resolution pertains to grant funding for the police department. Likely we will be going for some type of equipment. There's 25% match. Typically we ask for a waiver.
Okay.
Motion.
Okay. Motion by Bub.
Second.
Second by Cost. Any questions from the committee? Any questions or comments from the audience? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The second piece of legislation is Resolution 17-24, appropriating monies for the current expenses of the municipal corporation. Mr. Loomis is here.
Yeah, this is the money that came from the bond issuance we had last meeting. This is before the design work for the instrumentation and control work at the water plant, and the Tamarack transmission line, and some new lines on Sheridan Valley Road. So this is just appropriating the money, the bond money for those projects. So.
Okay, motion? Or questions? Go ahead, Mr. Rath.
Thank you. Did you say Cherry Valley Road?
Sheridan Valley Road.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Motion by Bub, second by Cost. Any questions from the committee, from the audience? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much. And we're done. It's now Service Committee.
All right, we'll call the Service Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Rath, Cost, Bub, Blake, and Floyd. First, consider resolution number 17-22, authorizing the Director of Public Service to execute a contract for reimbursement of legal representation of indigent persons for calendar year 2017 with the Licking County Board of Commissioners for the City of Newark, Licking, Ohio, and declaring an emergency. Are you here to speak on this, or you want me to?
I'll speak on it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a yearly thing we do. It is a contract, just as it says, a contract for reimbursement so we can legally represent indigent people. The reason it's an emergency is just the timing, the time frame.
You understand there's a deadline of April 28th.
Yep.
Second.
We have a motion by Bob, seconded by Floyd. Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor of passing this on to full council signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That passes 5-0. That concludes the Service Committee. Up next will be capital improvements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So we'll call capital improvement meeting. Present is Blake, standing in for Curtis, Rath, Bub, Magus, Hall. We have one item. Consider resolution number 1725, authorizing and directing the Director of Public Service for the City of Newark, Ohio, to enter into a purchase agreement with Park National Bank for the lease purchase of 4 cruisers for the Division of Police.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What we're proposing here is financing 4 cruisers for the police department. The cost of these cruisers are about $45,000 a piece, and we're going to try to get into some type of a rotation so that we're doing this every 16 or 18 months. Because if you get in some of our cruisers, they're not in great shape. And so we should be replacing cruisers in a quicker manner. It's taken a little time to get to this point because we've had to wait for some other debt and the capital improvements to be paid off. The administration feels comfortable with starting with this. see what the budget looks like next year. Maybe I'll be back to you next year or the first part of the following year. But we want to start with 4 this year.
So the 4 that you're talking about, there's 4 that are kind of in deep trouble,
Well,
and then others that are newer?
I wouldn't use the word deep trouble, but I'd use the word old. You have to understand, when an officer gets in a cruiser, that is his office. And sometimes he's asked to go from 0 to 100 miles an hour in a minute. And when these cruisers get old, and these cars run 24 hours a day, when these cruisers get old, they get dangerous, and they're not in the best shape. Our officers deserve better. And it's just taken a little bit of time, because when we came into office, the capital improvements budget was filled with leases. And we put them on a spreadsheet, we've watched them pay off one by one by one, and now we feel as though we're in a position to move ahead with financing 4 cruisers.
That makes sense. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second? Are there any questions from the committee? Questions from the audience? Take a motion to adopt. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Resolution number 1725 passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And personnel is next.
Okay, it's 5:39. We'll call this Personnel Committee meeting to order. Those present are myself, Ryan Bubb, Mark Frazier sitting in for Curtis Johnson, Mike Mangus, Jeff Rathford, Doug Marmey, and Dee Hall. The substance of the discussion this evening is Ordinance 17-14. It's amending the position classification, pay range, and department authorization tables of the Department of Safety Division of Fire by creating the classification of Deputy Fire Chief and setting compensation therefore, and abolishing 1 Assistant Chief by attrition. Human Resource Director Mike Buskirk is at the podium. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This particular piece of legislation passed last year, but when we did it at the time, we were going to put this position in with management and supervisory policy statement, and we've decided we want to put the deputy chiefs in with the chiefs. It's a different policy, and it's just what we've decided we want to do. So basically, if you would approve this, that's all it does. The position is already established. We just want to move it from supervisory and management over into the chief's book, their policy statement.
Motion. Second. Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Rath. There's a second by Frazier. Does anyone from this committee have any questions or comments for Mr. Buskirk?
I just have one. What's the difference between the 2 groupings? Is there any effective changes where it's reviews or supervisory? Or
The chiefs get a little more vacation. That's all they're getting.
So that's the only difference between
Yes.
the 2?
Basically, yes.
Mr. Banks, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Buskirk, is the pay scale still the same from the original position?
Yes.
Compared to?
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's why I want to get them over there so we get a little something for them.
Anyone else from this
Otherwise, why would you
committee
do
have any questions, comments? How about anyone from the floor? Okay. Well, seeing none, there's a motion on the floor by Rath, second by Frazier. All those in favor of moving this on to full council signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes 5-0. With that, we'll stand adjourned.